All right, it's time for the behind-the-scenes weather model discussion here for Monday, April the 3rd. How's it going, everyone? William Cole here in the Storm Studio. Of course, this is our behind-the-scenes look at how we're putting together the forecast of the day. Typically, we put this on our social media, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. So again, if you are seeing it there, feel free to give it a like, and of course, feel free to leave a comment below as well. So heading into April, climatologically speaking, here in North Texas, April is our #1 tornado month. It's actually not May here in North Texas. So climatologically speaking, we would be expecting tornadoes. Of course, yesterday, Sunday, we did have the tornado watch in the area. We had a few tornado warnings, but at least right now, in our coverage area specifically, we did not have any confirmed tornadic activity south of us down in Limestone County. There has been now from the National Weather Service a confirmed tornado down there. But again, like I mentioned, that was outside of our general coverage area. Now we have an opportunity today of maybe a couple of storms. I'm really not thinking it's going to happen. We'll take a look at that. And then tomorrow afternoon, late afternoon, similar story. We have the opportunity of a couple of storms. But then as we look at the latest data that's just come in, I think very late tomorrow night and a very early Wednesday morning, we may have a bit better of an opportunity. This is kind of a change in the data of some storms around from the Metroplex off to the east as a cold front comes through the area. Okay, so we've got rain chances there. And then also towards the end of the week, devil's in the details. The data's kind of flip-flopping back and forth. We may have an opportunity of some rain and storms at the end of the week as well. So we're going to dive into all of that. And of course, on this segment, we look at the raw data, right? We're not going to be looking so much at the pretty graphics. We're going to be looking at the raw data that we've been sifting through today. Okay, first of all, there's a look from Reunion Tower at downtown Dallas in 4K. Great shot. Again, you can see lots of blue sky, a few bubbling cumulus clouds out there, and that has to do with the dry line that's in the area. Here's a different perspective, again, looking at Dallas, downtown Dallas, specifically. Okay, from there, let's go ahead and flip on over here. And this will be the raw data that we want to look at. And first of all, I know this one looks a little tough. The white shows up a little bright, but this is our surface chart, right, for the Southern Plains. And the reason why I wanted to show this first of all, and we'll look at this a different coming up, but if you look at the little green number, right, that's the dew point. That's the absolute amount of moisture in the atmosphere, right, in the lower levels. So you take your dew point from the temperature, that's where your humidity comes from, okay? So the bigger the spread, right, the lower the dew point, the higher the temperature, the less humidity you have. The tighter it gets, the more humidity, the more muggy it feels, okay? The reason why that's important today is one of two reasons, right? We're very dry out in West Texas, our Texas Panhandle. I mean, bone dry out there. We've got some dew point values in the single digits. In fact, Amarillo, the dew point is currently 4 plus 4 with a temperature of 84, right? So again, we're putting the relative humidity very low. But we've got something called a dry line moving through North Texas. We talk about this often in the spring. It separates the warm, moist air from that bone dry desert air, right? Typically, we don't get a dew point down to 4 here in North Texas, but that air mass does move in to our western counties, okay? So where I'm going with this, and I know it's really hard to see on the screen, but we're connecting the dew point numbers here, and we're finding where the dry line is. A lot of times you can also look at the wind vectors, right? You can also see exactly where and kind of the direction of the wind. And in this situation where we have a southwesterly wind that's pulling in that dry air mass, right? So the wind barbs out in our western counties, they're coming in from the southwest. Here in the Metroplex, just now turning to the southwest. Current temperature at DFW, by the way, is 92. This is saying 90. It is 92, and with that southwesterly wind coming in, that dry air mass, we still have that opportunity to jump to right around 95 for a daytime high. So based off of this, I'm going to put the dry line right about here, okay? The dry line right about there, just kind of mixing into the western sides of the Metroplex. The only reason why this is important, two reasons. Temperature, right? The dry air will warm easier. So even though we kind of struggled through the 80s to right around 92 now that we're truly beginning to get some dry air in, 51, but it's dropping. Can we maybe go ahead and get that temperature to jump up as we go through the latter part of the afternoon, right? And actually, I'm sorry, my forecasted high, let me rephrase that. My forecasted high is 92 where we're at right now. Our record for today's date is 95. Our record is 95. So as of right now, we're 3 degrees shy of a record from back in 1989. Okay, so that would be the reason why. Can we maybe get to that record or maybe even break it now that we're getting some drier air in? I'm going to show you this one other way, then we'll move on. But this, in today's situation, this dry line is important. The only other reason why, it's also going to give us a very limited, a narrow window of maybe a couple storms forming along it as well. Let me do this. I'm just trying to find this on here. Like I mentioned, just bear with me. This little thing here is so small that we got to look at. So now we're looking at moisture convergence. And basically what that is, this kind of in more real time is showing us where the dry line is, right? The bone dry air clashing against the air mass that again has moisture in it. And so again, with that being said, from the Storm Prediction Center, you can plot the dry line right about there, right? So it's basically right in the middle of the Metroplex, similar to what we just looked at there on the surface chart as well. Okay, so dry line coming in near the dry line over the next couple of hours. Could we maybe bubble up a thunderstorm? We're going to try to maybe have one or two. I don't know it's going to happen, but we're going to try, okay? So here's a look at the satellite imagery, right? So in order to get a thunderstorm to develop, what do you need? You need clouds first. I know that sounds elementary, but that's before you ever have a radar echo, as you're maybe waiting for a storm to develop or an active weather day to develop. You begin to look at your visible satellite, and you can see the cloud tops begin to bubble, right? The cumulus clouds bubbling. And so again, along that dry line, you can see just that little Q field developing, right? That cumulus cloud, kind of if you look right there in the center of your screen, I'm talking about this little area right here. And so right now the updrafts don't look, the cloud tops don't look very impressive. There's one though right here that's gone up fairly quickly, and if you look at that white being blown off, that's the anvil being blown off the top, right? So we know at least one updraft went up pretty good. That's well south of our coverage area. But again, for us up here in North Texas, right now the development, right, the vertical development of this Q field right in here is where we're truly looking at. Central Texas back down in here, okay? So where we're looking at, so far not much, right? But doesn't matter. I mean, we could still potentially get a thunderstorm to form. So that's what we're going to be tracking into the evening. I think it's about a 20% opportunity. Okay, so because of that limited opportunity, this is what the Storm Prediction Center's done. They've given us a marginal risk of severe weather for today, okay? So the marginal risk that we have here locally in North Texas and down into Central Texas, parts of Hill Country, it's up and down that dry line, right? But the cap is strong. There's not a lot of dynamics in play other than just, I mean, truly bubbling something up off the dry line. Marginal risk, again, means maybe no storms, maybe a couple of storms, and maybe one or two severe. But again, the intensity is weaker, and again, we're only talking about maybe a couple of warnings or no warnings, okay? So that's the reason for the marginal risk this afternoon. Again, probably not going to happen here in North Texas, but we'll track it carefully, right? Okay, so from there, let's go into tomorrow. And tomorrow, you know, the same areas that had the big severe weather outbreak to end last week, they're under the gun again for another round. We've got two moderate risk. The argument can probably be made tomorrow. We may even see another very rare high risk issued, maybe in two of those areas. I mean, again, if you were looking at this last week, it's essentially the same areas. I mean, just uncanny that are, again, going to have a very high end severe weather outbreak. This, again, is for tomorrow, Tuesday. Again, notice North Texas, we're kind of right there on the fringes of that marginal risk going to a slight risk, mainly in our eastern counties. But I think for us, the details with the newest data this afternoon has changed ever so slightly. I think we have a pretty limited opportunity late tomorrow afternoon, but again, Tuesday night and early Wednesday morning, we may have a few thunderstorms around, okay? So we're gonna watch for that. And again, we'll take an in-depth look at that coming up as well. And then quickly, we'll look at the day 3 outlook. And again, we're going to have a big storm trough coming through, and because of that, you can see just a wide area of slight, meaning, again, a few organized areas of severe weather, but still pretty limited, again, from the Ohio River Valley, basically all the way up into parts of the, into the Midwest there as well, okay? So for us, we've got two risks today, tomorrow, but again, most of it looks pretty limited here in North Texas, other than Tuesday night and early Wednesday morning. Okay, so we've kind of got all that now in the back of our mind, what we have going on in the overall setup. I want to look at this quickly as well. This is our upper air chart, right? And this is at 18,000 feet. This is the 500 millibar chart. This is for the forecast, truly the meat and potatoes, right? We're looking for the dips, active weather. We're looking for the ridges, calmer weather, and any little short waves that may be caught in between moving through. Okay, similar to yesterday, Sunday, we just had a little short wave come through, and again, it did a very good job of, again, getting storms and the potential of severe weather to go yesterday, right? We were eyeballing that. If you remember, all last week, we were eyeballing that very carefully. Just kind of snuck in, right? It kind of snuck in on us. But again, we were tracking it here on our weather model discussions. Okay, so let's do this. Let's go and take a look at what we have. So here in North Texas, number one, at the mid-levels, we're in southwesterly flow. Okay, that's typically a warm pattern for us, depending on what's coming up in the subtropical jet out of the Pacific. Sometimes they can even be a wet pattern. Sometimes it can even be an active pattern for us as well. This is what we're going to be watching, though, over the next several days. It's this big storm trough coming in from the west. It's going to really break up into two pieces. One piece is going to come out tomorrow, and again, it's mainly going to go to our north, hence that, again, outbreak of severe weather possible off to our north. Then there'll be a back end piece that also swings through by the end of this upcoming week, and the data is looking a little more promising for Friday, but it's still a ways out there. Over the weekend, the data was not very excited about any rain chances to close off our work week, right? So Friday, maybe some storms around. Again, I'll show you the latest data coming up. We'll watch that trend over the next couple of days, okay? So that's kind of the overall pattern. Outside of that, it's just about, as we go through the remainder of the work week, it's just about that storm right there. Okay, from there, let's go and switch over to the model data. And this is where we really get into it. I just got to watch the time here too, make sure we're doing okay, because we've got to do our real weather as well. And so again, we're looking similar to what we just looked at, but this is over. I'm going to take you out over the next 10 days. This is the European model, right? We were looking at the real-time SPC Storm Prediction Center meso-analysis, and now we're going out into the future with model data, okay? So same thing, you can see the big dip right there. That's what's going to be swinging out. Again, otherwise we're still in that southwesterly flow that I was mentioning. Okay, let me go and clear this off, then I'll go and roll this into motion. So watch that feature, watch that trough, and let me go and put the preload. Sorry, let me let the computer here load up all the frames. And there we go. So let me go ahead and just walk you through. But you can see here comes that big trough, but notice how it scoots off to the northeast, right? That's why that more enhanced opportunity of severe weather is there. Watch the backside lobe kind of break off of that. And then again, and watch our southwesterly flow, little storm that tries to come through. And this will be, and this is truly what's breaking off. If you watch this, let me go and back this up a little bit. Watch how that scoots off to the north, and on the tail end of it right there, we've got that little piece of energy coming up from the southwest. Okay, that's going to be for this upcoming Friday. Then you can see kind of a more progressive pattern off to the north. You can see a couple storm systems. When I say progressive, meaning a couple storm systems well off to our north. And we go relatively quiet. We kind of stay in the zonal. There goes more of a northwesterly flow pattern. Sometimes that can be a little active for us. You can see by the upcoming Monday and a Tuesday, that little storm sneaking out of the Midwest and that northwesterly flow, again, coming down, draining down into North Texas. That may offer us an opportunity. I've got the following Tuesday, very slight opportunity of some rain and storms. Could also offer a backdoor cold front there as well. After that, look at the big ridge. After that, look at this ridge, right? So if you want to know what a ridge looks like, see that? It's like an inverted U. After that, we've got the big ridge building in. Let me clear this off. And we're kind of enridging to close out the 10 days at the end of the computer model run there. Then you can also see the big storm out there to the west. The next storm that's eventually going to come across the United States, but we just don't know the exact positioning or the timing of that one yet, the one that's sitting out on the west coast by day 10. Okay, let's do this. Let's look at air mass change quickly. And again, just making sure we don't have any cold air. Again, climatologically speaking now, we're kind of getting out of that season, right? We can still occasionally get some cooler blast, and we're just going to run you through this, but make sure there's nothing significant, right? There's still some significant chillier air off to the north, right, with the storm that's coming through for tomorrow. Take a look at those darker blues. That's some Canadian air up in the northern tier. Pretty decent little push there. Again, with the ridge, you can see our temperatures begin to build back in. You can see the oranges and the reds. Again, that's the ridging pattern. And then, I mean, true, and look at that ridge finally go all the way up to the northern tier. The folks up in the Dakotas have just been freezing. They finally get kind of a break in some of the chillier air. You can see the warmth even building in there. And then again, you can see that next system, the blues out there on the west coast. So, you know, we've got, it's kind of a quiet pattern. I mean, I'll be honest, there's really not a lot. If you watch these, you know, there's kind of not a lot going on, but we have the opportunity because it's mainly one storm, right? It's mainly one storm kind of breaks off. We have another little piece sneaking in, and then we possibly have something coming down in northwesterly flow off to our northeast, right? So it's not a super active pattern, but we may have an opportunity of some rain here or there, right? But there's no big fluctuations on temperatures. We'll cool down some, but then we'll begin to, in fact, warm back up above normal as well. But again, nothing extreme compared to the 90s that, again, we have still 92 at DFW that we have right now, right? So no big ups, no huge downs the way it looks right now. And we'll put numbers with all this coming up. Here's what I want to do. I want to look at the high res. We'll walk you through the precip now as well. Then we'll look at the numbers and we'll go ahead and wrap this up for today. But here is the HRRR model. And we want to look at, again, this is a future radar depiction over the next 48 hours. And this computer model comes in every hour, but 4 times per day, we get a 48-hour run with it. Okay, so we can look out over the next 2 days in high res. Otherwise, it only goes out 18 hours, typically. So there's today. Yeah, the data not really bullish, right? It's not really bubbling up anything today, right? So the HRRR model saying the cap is probably going to hold. We'll get a few bubbling cumulus clouds, which we have out there right now, but none of the updrafts are truly going to take. We're not really going to get any rain or thunderstorms to develop, right? That's what the data is showing. We're going to watch it, obviously, as we go through the late afternoon and evening, but right now the data not very promising, right? So it's a 20% probability or less for any kind of evening plans. As we get into tomorrow, Tuesday, still relatively dry through the afternoon, right? No real good signals of any activity, where before we maybe had something trying to develop by late afternoon, 1 or 2 storms, but here's the change, right? Because as that storm system comes through, here comes a cold front. You can see the cold front Wednesday night lighting up in Oklahoma, but notice North Texas, that would be 5 a.m. Wednesday morning, near or just southeast of the Metroplex. Take a look at that. A line of storms goes up along the front, and I mean, it's in and out of our area quickly. This will not be an all-day Wednesday thing. It'll be, you know, for a couple hours Wednesday morning, and it may be southeast and it may be east of the Metroplex, right? So timing and positioning is going to be everything with that. And again, that's new. That's new on this latest model run. We weren't getting that indication before, so we'll have to see if that even holds with the newest data that continues to come this evening and tomorrow as well. So we may have an opportunity in the Metroplex or just off to the south and east early Wednesday morning of some rain and storms, but otherwise today and really tonight, tomorrow afternoon really doesn't look like much, right? I mean, a stray shower thunderstorm can't be ruled out, but does not look very promising, okay? So after that, let's switch back over to the global model. Then I'll take you out 10 days of precip, and we'll take a look at our precip opportunities with those storm systems we were just talking about. And as we do that, let's just load this up. I'm going to skip through the near term, right? Because we've already looked at the first 48 hours in high res, and high res data trumps this data. Even though the Euro data is good, high res data is better, okay? So we're just going to skip through that. And so we're going to pick this up on Wednesday. Euro also doing something similar. You can see the Euro, it is developing kind of a line of storms pushing away, okay? So that's good to know. But here we go. So we'll go out in time. Everything relatively quiet. Here's our Friday. And here's as that next storm, remember, on southwesterly flow comes up, there may be an opportunity of some rain and storms around, okay? So we're watching Friday, okay? And I bumped the rain probabilities up now to 40% on Friday, okay? So we'll watch that. Heading into the weekend, this upcoming weekend, it looks quiet, right? Nothing really showing up Saturday, Sunday. Again, as anticipated, right? Because we've already looked at that upper air chart. But then as we get into early next week, remember, here comes that storm system down on northwesterly flow, but the storm system itself is still displaced well off to the northeast, right? And here we go. There's that front coming through with it. That would be Monday night into Tuesday. I mean, there's some weak signals. I got a 20% opportunity of maybe some rain and storms trying to develop near the front. Okay, so we'll keep our eye on that. and then that's basically it. Then we'll be watching out to the west with that next storm coming in. So again, there's a lot of question marks and all that, right? None of this is, it's not a very high confidence forecast. We pretty much know the bits and pieces, right, that are going to be moving, and as we look at the upper air chart, we have a pretty good feel of what's happening there. But what does that mean as far as precipitation goes? Again, it's devil's in the details this time of year, right? You can get the cap, you can get a lot of things that, even though something looks good, can really limit you, just like we're seeing today, and looks like for the most part tomorrow afternoon as well. And even though we were only still talking about a storm or two, it looks like now we're basically talking about none until potentially Tuesday night into Wednesday. And then after that, we really need to get some rain on Friday. If we don't, this will essentially be a pretty dry week. And then going into next week, it doesn't look overly promising. And this is, again, climatologically speaking, our wettest time of year. This is what we're heading into right now. So we need some rain. We've been doing great on rain this year. We've been doing great, but this is when we need to pick it up, because we know as we head into summer here in North Texas, the rain spigot, it turns off, right? The water spigot turns off. So here are the numbers to put with all that, right? This is the blend of models, and this is what I like to forecast off of temperature-wise. My 12-day is normally pretty reminiscent to this right here. Normally a few tweaks within it, but pretty reminiscent to what you're seeing right here, okay? So for tomorrow, 86, sounds about right. Then behind that weather maker, right, as that front comes through late Tuesday, right, very early Wednesday morning, that we may have a few thunderstorms with, not totally locked in. You can see we do turn cooler. We go below normal, not a huge cool down, but again, by Friday, again, a high of 63, overnight lows down in the mid 40s. So again, for this time of year, yeah, it's definitely cooler, but it's not cold, right? No freezes, nothing like that showing up. Then for the weekend, we rebound the temperatures back up to around 80. That'll be by Sunday. And then as we get into next week, you can see we truly rebound the temperatures back, right? So we'll be watching next week. I still think they may fluctuate a little bit, only for the fact we have the one system coming through on Monday. It's not really going to pull much in the way of cooler air down, but it could at least kind of ease those temperatures down a notch. And then remember the following system coming in as well, that may also actually push a cold front into our area. So it could also trend our temperatures down. So I'm not completely locked in with those 80s to end it, but I think once we get, by about day 8, 9, and 10, as we have that ridging pattern build in, that's when I do think the temperatures will take back off into the 80s. So still a few questions on the temperatures, even the deeper we get there into the 12 to 10 day period as well. So there's a lot going on, folks. Again, I mean, spring is active in North Texas. We know the summer months are typically pretty quiet, then fall, winter around here also typically pretty active as well. So just a quick reminder, if you have not downloaded our app, feel free to do that. Of course, it's completely free on the Google Play and Apple iTunes store. Just type in Weather Tracker TV DFW. And again, our typical live channel is on there. Live radar, my 12-day forecast maps, anything you need. Again, you can just download and again, pull that right up. So otherwise, thanks for joining us for our weather model discussion. Like I mentioned, we had to kind of get through this one pretty quick today because we got to get on and do our normal weather for this evening. Hopefully you can join us there, of course, on Weather Tracker TV, our live channel as well. Otherwise, enjoy the rest of your Monday. Thanks for watching. And again, feel free to leave us a like or a comment below. And again, we'll do another one of these tomorrow. Have a great rest of your Monday.